When we imagine totalitarianism, we picture boots stamping on human faces. We think of secret police, hidden surveillance cameras, torture cells, and absolute deprivation. But in 1932, Aldous Huxley proposed a different mechanism for absolute control. He suggested that a state doesn't need to break its citizens with violence. Huxley's thesis in Brave New World is mathematically cold. To eliminate human suffering, a ruling power must systematically eliminate human depth. You do not punish people into submission, you pleasure them into compliance. The world state operates on an absolute three-pillar motto: community, identity, stability. Within this system, war is extinct, poverty is engineered out of existence, disease is a historical artifact. The result is a society where everyone appears perfectly, permanently happy. But a society engineered for flawless happiness is the most inescapable form of prison. When the subjugated population actively desires their own subjugation, the walls of the cell become invisible. To maintain global stability, the world state relies on a single macroeconomic engine: uninterrupted, endless consumption. The society dates its calendar to the year Henry Ford introduced the Model T. Industrial mass production serves as the foundational ideology, entirely replacing religion. This economic model has specific biological requirements. It needs a population that never questions its place, never endures psychological distress, and never stops buying manufactured goods. Human nature is inherently unpredictable. Grief, passion, and doubt create friction, and that friction slows down the cycle of industrial consumption. The ruling class faced a massive logistical problem. They needed to build a rigid hierarchy that required no police force, no coercion, and no threat of violence to enforce compliance. Their solution was proactive. They removed the biological and psychological capacity for deviation before a citizen is even born. True systemic stability relies entirely on stripping away the messy, volatile elements of the human condition. What remains are frictionless consumers. The architecture of this control begins at the central London hatchery. Viviparous, or natural birth, is outlawed. Citizens do not reproduce. They are manufactured in laboratories. The primary mechanism for this biological standardization is the Bokanovsky process. A single human egg is traumatized with X-rays and alcohol, forcing it to divide into 96 identical embryos. This cloning is engineered for labor efficiency, producing standardized humans to operate standardized machines. The hatchery also chemically engineers intelligence. As the embryos develop, technicians carefully manipulate their oxygen supply. The lower castes, epsilons and deltas, are subjected to severe oxygen deprivation, ensuring they possess exactly enough brainpower for menial labor and absolutely nothing more. The alternative is societal collapse. In an event known as the Cyprus experiment, the world state populated an island entirely with highly intelligent alphas. Without a lower caste to do menial work, the society rapidly devolved into a civil war over status and resources. The world state maintains its strict hierarchy without passing oppressive laws. By biologically limiting the cognitive capacity of the oppressed classes, it removes their ability to even conceive of a rebellion. Once decanted from their artificial wombs, the infants are subjected to a secondary layer of control: neo-Pavlovian conditioning. Lower caste babies crawl toward blooming flowers. As they reach out in joy, the state triggers loud sirens and sudden electric shocks through the floorboards. The logic is macroeconomic. Nature is free. By associating nature with trauma, the state ensures the lower classes only spend leisure time consuming expensive, manufactured sports and goods. This physical conditioning is reinforced by psychological programming through hypnopedia, or sleep teaching. The state accidentally discovered sleep teaching centuries earlier when a child memorized an entire George Bernard Shaw radio broadcast playing in his room while he slept. The world state weaponized this phenomenon. Night after night, whispers under the infant's pillows repeat caste prejudices. Hypnopedia bypasses intellectual reasoning entirely, installing state-mandated opinions as fundamental psychological truths. Concurrently, the state abolishes all family structures. Without mothers, fathers, or monogamous relationships, deep emotional bonds are severed. The individual's only allegiance is isolated, directed solely towards the state. Yet, biology and psychology can sometimes falter. For those moments, the state relies on a chemical failsafe, soma. Soma is distributed as a daily ration. It is a structural tool that artificially deletes pain, erases doubt, and neutralizes the desire for solitude. By replacing human connection and critical thought with superficial, endless pleasure, absolute compliance is guaranteed. Despite this rigid engineering, systemic outliers occasionally emerge. Men like Bernard Marx and Helmholtz Watson possess anomalies that alienate them from the collective, leading them to the dangerous realization of their own solitude. This friction culminates in a philosophical debate between Mustafa Mond, the world controller, and John the Savage, a man raised outside the state's conditioning. Mond lays bare the central math of utopia. To achieve perfect stability, fundamental truths must be weighed and discarded. He argues high art, religion, and science require tragedy and suffering. You cannot write Shakespeare in a world where everyone gets what they want. For Mond, sacrificing truth and beauty is a necessary mathematical trade-off to prevent war and guarantee universal comfort. John rejects this sterile equation. He demands what the state has stolen, the right to suffer. He argues human dignity is intrinsically tied to the capacity for pain and raw passion and the struggle of overcoming adversity. Without them, a person is a hollow shell. This dialectic forces a brutal choice: endure an authentic humanity or accept a painless artificial existence. The ultimate paradox of the world state is that it is a flawless, perfectly functioning society that contains no true human beings. The complete eradication of suffering and friction inherently results in the complete eradication of individual identity. Citizens are not people. They are biological machines, engineered on an assembly line to smile, consume, and die without deviation. This is Huxley's warning. Totalitarian subjugation does not require an Orwellian boot stomping on a human face. It does not need fear. A population can be completely and permanently defeated simply by drowning them in endless, frictionless entertainment and absolute comfort. True freedom is not the absence of pain. It is the willingness to endure the friction of reality.